it's interesting. I never considered thinking about lei as a thematic around which we could tell the story, a broader story about colonialism and the transformation of the population of Hawaii. Well, these lei hulu, hulu are perhaps the most precious thing Hawaiians had. So we have these grand, capes that you see in these museums. You have these feather lei because of the rarity of feathers. Because when you capture a bird, maybe you're plucking one or two feathers out from under its wing, and then you let the bird go, right? You can imagine how many feathers it will take to make a lei of this nature. So the allusions to feathers in Hawaiian culture are all about precious, rare, the craftsmanship of the creation of a lei of this nature. That's why it's reserved for, ali'i, chiefly people who have mana and like haikapu. So we don't see a lot of those traditional leis anymore because those birds have died out. Like some of them are either on the extremely endangered list or they've just all gone, died from disease or predators, right, that were introduced like rats or mongoose. So part of that lei culture has been lost to the way that the populations on our islands have been adversely impacted by settlement and encroachment. So too, if we thought about, how the population of the islands is changing today. The last census, I think 2010 that I can recall, 500,000 Hawaiians in the world. Self-identified, right? Hawaiian, part Hawaiian. In the islands, presently half that number. The island that I live on alone, Oahu, is home to 1 million people. So you can see 250,000 Hawaiians spread across an archipelago of maybe 8 islands inhabited, 250,000 of us to 1 million on one island. So really the population ratio between Native Hawaiians trying to keep alive cultural ways, and, in order for us to practice the art of lei making, in order for us to have the ferns to make these beautiful green leis that are just fresh smelling on their own, like not flowers, but to us very precious because a lot of the fern leis in particular have associations with different Hawaiian gods of the forest, gods of hula. Some hula halau, some hula schools continue to practice sacred ceremonial practice so that these ferns, these flowers are put on ku'ahu or living altars in the school. And so as long as they thrive, so the thought is that the school of knowledge shall thrive. So really the life of the land and the forest and the ecosystem is deeply tied to the life of the people. I often say, the inextricable tie between people and aina, people and land and home place. That's a lot of things people don't see, and part of it is caught up in the art of what we do. A lot of it is in our language, the songs and the chants that we continue to try to maintain against a world that dictates that English is the official language of everything, right? So that's the real difficulty. So I don't like to think about cultural practice as property. We don't like to think about we own this. This is, so I try to take it out of that conceptualization. But really, there are things that we are tasked to maintain. But in Hawaii, we've been, I don't know, maybe a little bit less impacted in places so that we are capable of saying, most of us, that because it's Hawaii, we want everyone to practice what we practice, if possible, to learn our language, to speak our language, to know about our culture and literature, and to learn how to make lei and be part of that. But part of that practice is also maintaining the health of the forest, maintaining the health of the plants, replanting, reforesting, all of those kinds of practice, because you can't have a completely extractive practice unless you also grow things.